The man, the myth, the legend, Polnareff has returned. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. But it's good to see this iconic character from Stardust Crusaders make a return in Part 5. It's a character I think many fell in love with. Like, if you have been with JoJo since the anime started airing, like, if you have not read the manga, and let's say you watched all Part 1, Part 2, obviously you shouldn't be watching Part 5 if you haven't seen the previous, but I mean, like, if you have been an anime only the entire time, and you've watched all the parts, you watched all of Stardust Crusaders, and then you got to Part 4, and you never got to see Polnareff, or ever really get to see him ever mentioned, this episode is going to make you very happy, because Polnareff is a fan-favorite character. Many love him as a character. Many really wanted more of him. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of sad that another character that died in Part 3 cannot be here as well. Kakyoin. You know, he was a character that many loved as well, but he got a donut hole by a certain individual. So, it's kind of sad to think about that, but I'm just glad that Polnareff, even if he has lost a few things, and you can definitely say now he's riding a permanent silver chariot, he is definitely, you know, in good shape. Like, it seems like he is back in the series, and he's definitely probably going to be here for a while, and I think many can agree that this is good news. So, okay, all jokes aside, and just talking about, you know, his return, can we talk about his voice? This is something that kind of surprised me. When I listened to Polnareff's voice while watching this episode, it sounded, honestly, a lot different than what I was used to. Like, if you go back to Stardust Crusaders, Part 3 JoJo, and you listen to Polnareff, the voice sounds very different compared to what we heard in this episode. However, I became aware that apparently the voice actor that did this episode's Polnareff is the same voice actor that did the voice acting for Polnareff in Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. So, what this goes to show is that this voice actor has some range. Like, his range, the way he can just change his voice to that extent to give a character like Polnareff so much of a vast difference. Like, you can hear the age. Like, the way the voice actor is, like, adding age to the voice, I have to commend the voice actor. That's something you don't really see often, but you do see some voice actors really demonstrate some straight-up quality. Voice actors, honestly, just don't get enough credit. Like, there's just so many I've seen over the years of watching anime that has just blown my mind. Like, a voice actor that stands out to me is the voice actor of Eren and Kirito, like Eren from Attack on Titan and Kirito from Sword Art Online. That voice actor is the same, and obviously many would know that, but he also voiced Beetlejuice in Re:Zero, the crazy character that, you know, was just over the top. And many don't realize that that voice actor is the same as Kirito and Eren. And that, once again, just really surprised me with just how these voice actors, they have some really good talent. Their talent is insane. And seeing something like this with Polnareff's voice actor, it just once again goes to show that voice actors really aren't respected enough, in my personal opinion. They're never really mentioned as much, and I just think seeing how this episode was done, it wasn't just Polnareff that really stood out. Like, Secco as a character was insane. Like, oh my god, his voice actor did a fantastic job with really just nailing in how crazy / psychotic Secco was, but also just how when he starts, you know, going in for the kill, he doesn't back down, and he just goes to just a mad dash. He's scary. So, yeah, just, once again, voice actors, just amazing. I feel like they deserve more credit than they get. So, let's get right into it. So, this episode is straight up Bruno versus Secco. And many might think that this wouldn't be that interesting of a fight after you saw, you know, Green Day go down in the last episode. You would think that this episode would kind of pale in comparison, which, by the way, I know many are probably going to be watching this, you know, episode and thinking, or episode review and thinking, Chibi, you didn't upload a review last week. Well, as I said in 2 vlogs this week and on Twitter quite a bit, I had to deal with some family issues in Florida, and I missed quite a few shows, and manga as well, like One Piece and all that. So, obviously, the time I finally caught up with everything, everything started coming out again, like JoJo and Kimetsu's coming out tomorrow, Attack on Titan and all that. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to just carry on with the current stuff instead of being backlogged and just, weighted down by the stuff from last week. So, just to kind of explain. But to give a brief, thoughts on the last episode, the whole Muda thing, just seeing Giorno going, Muda, 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 I love that. That was easily one of my favorite moments of the episode. It was just so nice to see the anger from Giorno and how he took down, Green Day and Chocolate, and also threw him in the trash bin, which, by the way, let's get into that. Secco and Chocolate's relationship. It's very distinct when it comes to this part. If there's one thing that Part 5 JoJo has taught us, is that the villains, there's a lot more going on than it appears to be. We have seen many duos that pop up to fight our main cast of characters that have some very unique personalities. Like we have, a relationship between two dudes. That was like a recent fight we had in JoJo Part 5. And then we had the whole thing with, the two individuals that were working together, and you had one of them where his senpai died, and he just started to respect him, and he's like, I'm gonna do better and all that. And, he started using his, stand ability to go after Bruno, and he just really matured. So seeing, all these different little iconic duos throughout the journey of Part 5, it just goes to show that Araki really wanted to make these villains stand out. And that's kind of what you get here from Chocolate and Secco, is that they're individuals that at first glance, they just seem to be crazy, and that's all it seems to be. But there's just so much more going on under the hood than we actually realized. And that's what I kind of mentioned when this arc first started, was that when you look at, Chocolate's intentions, what he was or what he was doing, he obviously was very one-dimensional. He was just a savage, a murderer, and he was not a good person. It was very easy to get what he was, and there wasn't really anything complex about him. And when you see Secco introduced, you could just assume that the character is broken, he was mind-warped by, Chocolate, and which resulted in what he was. But when you see this episode and he finds out that Chocolate's actually dead, he's like, I don't care, I don't care about that man, I never cared about him to begin with. And it really just goes to show that there was just so much more going on here with the relationship, and I kind of want to dive into that. See, Chocolate as an individual, you would assume he would be someone that would just completely disregard Secco. He would not care for him. Like, he'd be able to just willingly throw him away like nothing because of what he did to so many people and what he was doing in Rome to begin with. But seeing his final moments from last episode, but also in this episode, he admits to, Secco, I love you, I care for you, which showed that his dynamic, even if he was a very cruel and messed up individual, he did care about Secco in his own demented way. He did care about the man. And when you see Secco, which you would assume would be someone that's loyal to Chocolate and just has some form of motivation and really stir up and want to avenge his fallen comrade or his master, he straight up's like, nah, I don't care about that man. I don't care about him at all. I'm glad and all that. And I'm just like, everybody is going to just be shocked because it demonstrates what he felt or how he felt about Chocolate. The only reason why he followed him was because he was someone that was just strong-willed. He had such a strong grip, like in terms of just what he wanted, what he was doing, his overall personality. He had so much flair to him that Secco thought he was very cool. Thought, he was someone that would be able to just, he could admire. And because of the circumstances, given sugar cubes and different things like love and all that, he was just there with Chocolate just to get the benefits. But soon as Chocolate's gone, he no longer cared about him. It's kind of like a cat. That's the best way to look at it. And it's kind of very messed up in a way, because when you view Chocolate and Secco's relationship as more of a master and a dog. But after this episode, it's more like a master and their cat. And I know that there's cats out there that are lovable and just like dogs are even better than dogs. But most of the time, cats are creatures that will just stick around because you're feeding them. But as soon as you stop to feed them, you don't feed them anymore, they'll just run off and not care. As for a dog, they'll still love you unconditionally. It's not right not to feed them, I'm just saying they still would love you. So that's the point here, is that you kind of find out that Secco never really was a dog, he was just a cat. He was just someone there just to get benefits and would just leave when he felt like it. So, it's kind of cool. I love that dynamic and just the reveal of his character, and I think that's just going to come as a surprise for many. Which, by the way, let's get into the fighting style. Secco's stand ability. Once again, at first glance, it doesn't seem like much. Like, when you think about him just being able to dive in underground, turn things to liquid around him and all that, and just swim and then pull things under, it's very basic. It's something that I think many at this point in time have seen an ability quite like that. It's happened in One Piece, it's happened, I think, in Hunter x Hunter, it's happened in quite a few series of shonen. Now, I'm not saying that, JoJo copied it, because obviously JoJo's like the grandfather of shonen. I'm just saying the ability itself is something that is very standard. It's not something that you would think would be this unique or how it was displayed throughout this episode, but that was not the case. The ability was very different. It was something that I think would catch many by surprise with the way Secco applied it against his opponent, Bruno. Like, example, when he was chasing after Bruno, and then he realized that Bruno wasn't moving and he couldn't find him, he decided to start eating mud. And at first glance, this looks like he's just being a psycho. But when he starts eating the mud and he just spits it in the air using his speed from his stand, his overall superhuman strength, he spits it into the air, and then it hardens and falls straight back down. And the reason for this is because he explains his stand softens and makes it towards like liquid around him. And so if he shoots up in the sky and it, leaves his, area, it will harden, and then as it's falling back through the ground, it's straight like hard mud and will just slam right into someone and then, stop and probably turn into liquid once again. And that's what he was doing to Bruno, is that he slung up a bunch of mud, turned it into like ice spears or, mud spears, and just slammed right into him. And it's savage. I mean, it's very basic, but it's a very good way to use your stand ability. And like I said, the voice actor did such a good job, especially with that psychotic chase in the second half when he's running him down, which also Bruno needs to be looked at as well. As an individual, from part 5, or all of JoJo actually, I think many can agree that Bruno, in terms of fighting, his stand isn't crazy, so to say, once again like Secco, but he really knows how to reap the benefits of his stand. Like, he is someone that is so quick thinking and is able to really figure out certain situations of how to use his stand, like traveling underground, just splitting a pole in half and then having it reconnect to kind of impel someone like a pincer move. It's really cool to just see the way Bruno uses his stand. And that's what I'm trying to say is that I think out of all of JoJo, Bruno is probably the scariest stand user. Like, not in terms of overpowered stand, but how he uses his stand. His stand is just used in so many different situations. It's so flexible that it just, I think, would blow many people's minds while watching this series. So yeah. Now, one last thing to get into, let's talk about Doppio. So, Doppio obviously popped up at the end of the episode, and, it was a very tense moment, because many of us, the audience, we know who Doppio is. We know he's the, Diavolo. We know that he's the boss. And when you see him pop up, you're like, oh no. Many would instantly assume that, he's going to kill Secco after what Secco said. But then once that was done, you would assume that he was going to probably kill Bruno or someone. Bruno got closer. It didn't happen, but at the end of the episode, we're left with a cliffhanger to where it looks like Doppio is about to finish off Bruno, which is exactly what he wants. So it's just a very scary situation, and there was a lot of tension in that moment, because it removed the tension from Secco over to Doppio, because Doppio was someone I could easily turn into the boss and just start annihilating things. So yeah, that was the major point of the episode, and I think it's just scary, and I cannot wait to see where, the story goes next. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.